Welcome back to CSP M Plus Commentary. Today, I'll be providing a full commentary on my Warlock 16 Algathar Academy. This is my first season playing as a Warlock, so I'll be aiming to be very critical to identify the areas where I can actually improve. I understand that not everything I do will be perfect, but I'm committed to learning and growing. I hope this provides some insight into my learning process and how I strive to master a new class. Guys, let's dive right into the key with legitimately the first global of the key being a mistake. So if you can see, I use Fell Domination in the bottom left with the Fell Hunter. There is no reason to do that. There's repercussions for the buttons that you press down the line. So that's a 3-minute cooldown. Now I don't have it. I'm not entirely sure, so I am going to be, this is my first time watching this again. I'm not exactly sure how my pet dies, but at the very beginning of this pull, my pet is dead, and I'm losing massive amounts of damage for not just manually summoning my Fell Hunter. Next, what we have to talk about is this pull. You can see down at the bottom right, Yoda is running this key at level 19 for this season, where he's waiting for the skitterflies to pat. Then by the time he has hit everything else, they pat back into the group, and you'll notice that I stay back here to avoid getting into combat prematurely. The healer and the priest, however, end up taking damage because they start the skitterfly sequence too early. Now, this is a critical point, maintaining distance in this one. The tank just needs to wait for those to pad a little bit and they'll come right back into the group, and it's really easy to get aggro on everything because they're just all coming from a different angle. I'm avoiding initial aggro the best that I can, and then I try to utilize my shadow meld when I start seeing any red frames here. If anyone knows how my pet just died right there, I would really love to know. Right here, it looks like as soon as I see these red frames, I should be at least death coiling one of these. And this would be a great time to have out a demonic circle, so if any of those are getting close to you, you can just horde away. Does anyone know at a specific target count, or maybe even if you can generalize a target count in which it would be more beneficial to use the soul shard for 5 seconds to get the pet out, to be able to get that Grimoire back? I don't know. That is something I would like to figure out. So if you know, comment below. I'm interested. If you also in this video, if you see me doing certain things and I don't talk about it, it's probably because I don't know about it for Warlock. If you see a blatant mistake that I could be adjusting and doing better on, please message that below as well. I will try to adjust whatever I can. This video is about improvement and how we can get better. The Fell Domination I used at the start of the key caused me to lose 10% damage proc from my pet and also reduced overall pet damage. Beyond the raw numbers, it also consumed some of my mental bandwidth, impacting my overall performance. I recommend summoning your pet at the very start of the key in case it dies early. It's very unforgiving if not managed properly. So far, pull's not going too bad. I started with the haste buff at the beginning. That's why I had went to the left. We're about to pull the boss here, and I started watching some other Warlocks play. It would appear that most of them don't even use anything but Rain of Fire. I'm not totally sure of that. I need to watch some more Warlocks play. I really am unsure how to exactly min-max based on target count right now, and I don't even know how to sim it. So I will figure that out, and those will be adjusted. For now, I'm pretty much going with anything over 4 targets is typically going to be Rain of Fire. Anything at 3 targets that I have Havoc up, I will be using Chaos Bolts with some Rain of Fires, depending on the situation. Like right here is the correct play to Chaos Bolt both mobs with Havoc one time and then Rain of Fire the rest to get the 10% damage on both main targets with Rain of Fire stacked on all of them, or send all of the single target damage so we have less phases for this guy. So those are some of the main questions I have for Warlock right now, but besides those, let's kind of start diving into the macros, the mouse overs, what I'm actually doing here, what I'm thinking. So I have a few macros, and due to this key, I did fully change my Havoc macro because of this key. I, at multiple points and in the very first pull, was struggling to target my target with Plater because of how many mobs were actually covering the screen. So what I ended up doing is my Havoc was on a no harm, so it ended up being, I will put both up here so you can see which one I had and which one I'm using now, and I recommend the one on the right. Once you get a little more proficient with using your mouse overs and all of that. Right here, this was big. I never got it. I was able to refresh the buff by resetting and walking backwards here. That's why I didn't die. I still had the buff on me. I mean, I had very, very low health. I almost died, but it was just because I circled back around, made sure I didn't get the last hit, and that was pretty much why I didn't die right there, and everyone else did. So that was pretty lucky. This was my main concern of when I'm supposed to be Chaos Bolting. I think you'll see it here. I do not think I'm supposed to be Chaos Bolting right now with the amount of targets. Um, I am pretty much just sitting at full soul shards this entire time. So this has to be correct. And at the end, what I chose to do is just put one eradication, get away from the mobs. And eradication is when you put a Chaos Bolt out. Whatever the Chaos Bolt hits for like 7 seconds, maybe 8 seconds, 6, 7, 8 seconds, one of those numbers, it will do 10% more damage to that mob. I brought all my CDs here because I got hit by a storming at the same time. I put my last rain of fires out and I was like, that's 3%. I have to be able to Chaos Bolt this now. And I'm like, but I'm just capping on soul shards, so I'm just shipping it. And I think at the end here, throwing these Chaos Bolts were correct. I don't really have a way of knowing that unless someone probably tells me, or I come back to this video in about 2 months when I learn this class. But either way, I think that what I did was okay for the most part. I would give myself a B for that whole thing. On the first pull, I believe most Warlocks would have died in that scenario, and I feel like I gave it a lot of time. Um, the boss, I ended up getting hit by one storming, so that could be improved, but I did panic button, hit all of my defensives, and did not die, so that's good, I guess. No matter what, be careful of storming. It's just such a specific time where you kind of have to be grouped with the group, and then the storming came out, didn't see it, and I was just like, well, I know I can live one of the circles on the ground due to the website not even close. I will be making a video about that, but just so people can start playing around with it. It's a very useful tool for Mythic Plus that essentially you put in your stamina, your avoidance, and a couple other little stats, and it will just churn out legitimately every ability in the game for you. Every ability in the game, it will tell you if your character lives naturally, if your character lives with a shield, if your character lives with, like, for example, if you're playing a Demon Hunter, if it lives with Blur, if you need to Blur and Blade Dance, if you need to Nether Walk, if you need to Blur, Blade Dance, and then be in a different key because it's still going to one-shot you through Nether Walk. I mean, there's only, like, one ability in the game that actually can kill you through Nether Walk, so, and I don't even know if it's in the season. It's Dawn of the Infinite last boss. He can kill you through Netherwalk. There might be something else in this that can kill you through Netherwalk, but most of the time we're going to say no. To instant cast gateways, like I just did, I will also be putting that macro. I'll probably link all my Warlock macros in the video below here, and then when I use them and I talk about them, I will bring them up here. So here is one of the main things that I've changed with Warlock that I've gotten a lot better. And I can still see one of those mobs doesn't have Immolate on it. But if you, what I've realized, and my DPS is going up slowly every time I do this, it's just have it, you walk up to a pack, Havoc, and Immolate every target. If your worst case scenario is that you overcap 5 shards due to an Immolate cast by 1 second, I will say that that's a rotational mistake. Yes, it is. But if you do it, you're losing almost no value. And when you're new, You need to get the immolates out because you're gonna get starved later. That's what I've learned. I do not think it's 100% correct, but you need to. I would try to just practice getting the immolates out because at some level, a fucking 100 parse warlock is playing that mini game, and that's what they're doing. They're playing how few immolates can I put up while getting exactly enough soul shards to never have to cast anything else. That's the mini game you're going to have to play if you want to 100 parse this class. I want to 100 parse this class. I want to practice putting immolate on every target. And it would appear I get really close, and I always leave one. Did I leave one out here? 1, 2, 3. I think I got all of them this time. All right, so I got all of them this time. The goal is to get all of them every time, except for like that first pull of Academy. I mean, I put out like what? I think 6, 7 before I even casted another ability. And realistically, I might have, I should have, watching it again, I should have put more out. I think a good number for the beginning Algathar Academy pull, if you want to just be as generic as possible, I'm going to put a number out for you. You need to do 8 immolation auras before you drop Rain of Fire and Infernals. If you're dropping Rain of Fire and Infernal that early on that many moms, it takes a certain tank to be able to group that and hold aggro on it. And like even if they're good, they might not be able to do it. If you don't have Shadow Meld, you're gonna die. I think a great point as a generic across the board on that first pull of Algathar Academy, you do a Havoc first global into 8 Immo auras, and then once you have casted 8 Immo auras, if it is still that sus, then cast a 9th and a 10th. But I think for the most part, you're going to be safe. You by the time you can actually cast 8 immolation auras, there should be sufficient aggro, and there should be not much to worry about. Next, I've been really focusing on my defensive usage on my Warlock, but once I've changed that, my movement has struggled greatly. I have not been placing my demonic portal much. I use my portal to fly to the next zone a lot. When I have a full group behind me, I put down my gateway to pull them. But I think every single time you do a pull, there should be 2 globals you use first. It should be either demonic gateway or havoc. When you have a multi-target situation, you need to be using Havoc early so you can get it on cooldown. Right here, I just got Chaos locked. This is, or Fire locked, so I sometimes forget I'm playing a caster, and this guy can kick me, essentially. So I don't think I'll get kicked anymore. Once I get kicked once, I'm like, oh yeah, this boss does that. I have not played casters much in my life. I would like to get into them, and this is pretty much my run at it. I've always wanted to play Warlock. I feel like I'll probably end this game playing a mage. I do not play mage. I've never really played mage. I am a melee DPS player at heart, and I prefer that playstyle for the most part, but I've also been playing it I've been playing Death Knight since the real Wrath of the Lich King, and I have played Survival Hunter, Havoc Demon Hunter, Monk, Rogue, and if I played one caster, and I don't even know if you're going to consider it a caster, Hunter. I don't know if Hunter is going to be considered a caster in most people's eyes. If I will consider it within the scope of that. Watching this overall play here, I am fairly happy, other than being locked out of fire. I think I've been doing pretty well. I have used offensives almost perfectly. I think I timed them for the 4th every single time. I did get... I got locked again. Jesus. Okay. I think I even canceled the cast there. And then I started casting it again. I'm not really sure what I did there. That one was probably just my brain turning off. So this is something I will be fully paying attention to the next time I do this boss. I did not realize that I actually got silenced twice. I know that I can cast other schools of magic, but we're not here to do okay. We're here to try to become very good at this class. I would like to be very good at this class. One of the other things I'm noticing is my single target lacks a immo aura on the target sometimes. I would say that there has got to be uptime issues I'm having with immolation aura that I did not realize until rewatching my play here. My favorite part about the keys, the nice RP. Love doing this. I love sitting on anything that I've been waiting for. I mean, this is my favorite part about Mythic Plus, doing all of the RP and just walking forever. I really love it. But let's get into the poll here. Normally, I would say your tank can pretty much pull whatever they want here. I see a different pull at all times whenever I do this. I see people go straight down the middle, pull every mob on this platform. I see people pull to the left. I see people fully skip and go the opposite way and come back through Veximus. This I do not think has a direct correct way to pull it. I would have to say if I'm going to do a 20 key and I'm in a coordinated group, I'm going to pull literally this entire platform with the mobs on this bridge, bring them back to almost exactly where we are currently, and then just make sure the range, like right there, I should have been behind a pillar. There's no reason for me to have taken that damage. But we're all stacked, so it's not like they're moving anyway. One of the main problems is you do not want the mob to be jumping out of the group because he will do a frontal on one of the ranged players. And if he does a frontal to somebody that is not LOSing, he will then, and now I'm actually finally remembering to use some of my movement as my brain power grows. I didn't realize he was trying to skip these mobs, so this was my bad here. And so I popped my cooldowns, I just moved through it, and then he ended up just pulling it anyway, and I was like, okay, well, so that's on me. I don't think that's on him. And then he determined that within that time range, he didn't have the cooldowns, and if he were to do the next Giga pull that he was going to do, he would die. So I appreciate tanks that understand their limit when something goes wrong. So I believe that he made a bit of an incorrect decision on the first pull. I also believe that's very easily corrected. He, for generally speaking, holds very good aggro. I had a lot of damage at some points in these fights. Like one of the ones coming up next, I'm doing almost 4 million DPS on all of those targets, and I never pulled once. So good aggro in general. I think this is good foresight by him to understand that the CC was broken. He needed that CC in that time frame for his cooldowns, and he made the executive decision to not do that. I don't know if they took away this spot because I went up here and then I got hit. To the best of my knowledge, somebody told me I could just stand up here and I won't get hit by anything. I literally just got hit right there. I'm not sure. They might have fixed this spot. Nobody else in this group is up here, and this is like a pretty high level group, I would say. Like these people, I've known them for a little while. I played with this healer a lot, actually. This might be one of the healers I played with the most. He's very, very good. I would say this is one of the highest tier healers I've gotten the chance to play with, and hopefully we'll continue to play throughout this season. But very good monk. If you see this guy, you should probably bring him to your group. He'll do all right. I do not say that about too many people, so hopefully that carries some weight. This next pull is my favorite pull of the dungeon. I actually did this. This is the first time doing this pull since I played. I made a Warlock and did an Academy on beta, and this was the pull that made me decide to play this class. And so I screwed it up a little bit here. Let's really break this down because I think this is one of the pulls I understand how to do the most damage on Warlock. So if I'm looking at this, I got a little bit startled with the one mob coming at me at the beginning, and it didn't even hit me, but it kind of threw off my mental of where I was going. I'm trying to keep my Havoc stacks up due to my, every time I duplicate my Havoc spell, I gain 5% damage. Excuse me. Once it gets 5 stacks, I gain 10% damage. So it stacks 5 times. You get 2% stacking damage each time. So I'm trying to go before my first rain of fire, before I drop my infernal, before I drop my trinket. I'm trying to make sure that I have almost all of these mobs to a reasonable degree having an immolation or an MO on them. I believe that that's a huge deal, because if you're gonna cap out on soul shards, that's better than not having soul shards. That's my opinion on it. If you have to, if that's what you need to start doing, is capping a little bit on soul shards, I don't think that's bad for learning. It's not maximum DPS. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that's how you should do it. But I do not think overcapping 0.5 soul shards in a scenario will ever be worse than you're now don't have anything to press other than putting an MOR out or an immolate out. You don't have anything else to press other than to do that. I don't want to get to the spot where that's required, so sometimes I will throw out one more immolation because I didn't realize how, like, I was at 4.8 soul shards and I was about to cap. And in that exact scenario, if I'm not going to pull aggro, I should be using a soul shard ability at to some degree. I don't know, maybe it's even just pop soul burn so you can use one of them, then you're not capped, and then you have a soul burn sitting on your body and you get an instant gateway the next time, and then it's technically not even a wasted soul shard. So there's a lot of different things you can do min-maxing, and that's why I'm not trying to, like, I'm trying to learn how fast my soul shards regenerate. I would say I'm decent AoE right now, just because my mind goes to the AoE scenarios. Like, I'm a better player at a AoE scenario than a 7-minute single target fight, because I will lose interest in it, I guess is the best way to put it. That's another reason why I love playing Demon Hunter, is I don't get bored even in single target, because I make the rotation a bit more fun. I mean, it's like, sometimes if you're close to a wall, you get to fell rush into walls, etc. I will be going over all of that and more in my Havoc Demon Hunter guide, so I'm not really going to talk about that here. But if you also play Havoc Demon Hunter, I'm going to have a pretty cool guide that you should be able to watch, practice, and see real results from it. It's just, I mean, it's what I do, and I'll just kind of show you the thought process behind it, and then you can try to implement it. What I want to try to do with this channel is give you information you can actually use when you watch it. I will give super in-depth stuff that you will probably have to practice for a year, and I will, for the majority, try to give you something you can actively practice that is not too invasive. Right here, I have been pretty happy with my rotation of cooldowns. For the love of God, this is the second time I've clicked Soulstone this fucking key. Jesus, I gotta figure out what keybind that is. I'm looking at the keybind. I don't even know what keybind that's on. So it's just keybind everything. And one of my recommendations for Mythic Plus is it's so hard to perfectly stun, silence everything in Mythic Plus. I have been playing Mythic Plus for a long time now. I'm not perfect. I don't think Genji is perfect. I don't think a single player in this game is perfect. I think people have played perfect dungeons. They have gotten it perfect one time in a MDI setting, and then there's an argument that they probably screwed up a global here and there. So just always remember, there's something better you can do. If you think that you're the best player in the game, what's up, Fragrance, I guess. If you're not him, then we can learn together. So let's try to figure it out. Alright, so Veximus, we got Veximus down. We already cleared this bridge because we had a couple deaths and we ended up coming from the beginning of the dungeon because there was no one to res. Over here, I believe I do get stuck in this gate coming up, so I just start typing to people to try and make sure that I have, they know that I have Infernal plus 9 stacks of Virtual Ruin, so as soon as the tank gets aggro in this pull, I essentially start with 2 Infernals, like, directly off the rip, and it basically pushes me towards a 3rd Infernal pretty quickly, being at 9 stacks, being able to drop an Infernal. Right here should be, I'm afraid of aggro, so I put my shield on, but I should be Curse of Tongues. Both of them, actually, there's 3 casters, so I should have Curse of Tongues on 3 casters, because I wasn't casting anything anyway. So, Curse of Tongues needed to go out there. That, I think having 30% less casting is always going to be beneficial. I think you should always be casting Curse of Tongues. I have it on a mouse over macro now. I will link that below. Alright, so we're getting to the end of the dungeon. This is the final pull right here. It looks like overall the dungeon's going pretty smooth. Right here I was kind of like panning to the right, and I was like, oh, I'm getting pretty close to those mobs. So always be aware of where you are in the Mythic Plus dungeon. At any given time, you could just be millimeters too close to a mob, and then all of a sudden the mob will just end up patting into you and you didn't even realize you're at the very, very, very end of his pat. Right here, I forgot I was a Warlock. So what I could have done is instantly drop Portal and let them summon, and then I probably could have gotten my pet buff within that time frame, and then I would have been able to just use a Lockgate from right here with a Soul Burn and probably started this boss with my 5 soul shards like I planned. But now, because we've sat out of combat for so long, I believe it's going to drop. There we go. It drops out. I'm back to 3 soul shards. We were able to summon the DK because he's very, very far away on the map. So at the end of the day, it's probably a net positive that I did that, but there was a better way to do it. So right here, I end up remembering to put my gateway down after the first grip in by the boss, I believe. Uh, I think one of the huge takeaways here is I'm not using my movement as much as I could, or really at all. So as soon as you get into a pull, you need to be dropping gateway, and you need to be dropping your circle. If you drop these and you don't use them, I guess that's fine for learning, but get in the habit, like if you're not even going to use it anyway, you may as well just drop it and use it. I mean, I believe that the more you hit the button, the more you'll like cognitively remember what you're actually supposed to be doing in those scenarios. And I believe when you have it on cooldown, just sitting on cooldown out of nowhere, you'll be like, damn, I wish I had that up. And then you'll think to yourself, oh, I can. So I do have it up. I will be able to use it for the next time. And I slowly got into this one. I was like, oh, if I just press my circle, I'm all the way back here and I just can keep casting without having to do it. So I will continue to get better on that. I'm hoping the more videos that you see of the Warlock, the more I utilize my movement. Like right here, I'm starting to get more into a flow of utilizing my demonic circle for this, and I definitely saved some extra time trying to jump out of here. So boss is pretty much at 40%. I know at some point here I end up panning my camera down and I did not even see the breath. Like normally I can see which orientation the boss turns, so I have no like worries about where the boss is facing, but I guess at whatever time, because I normally play melee, I put my camera panning downwards. I think it's coming up here. I don't remember the exact percentage, but I know I died on this boss, so we'll kind of let it play out from there, but this was a plus 16 academy run. If you have any questions for me about Mythic Plus in general, you can leave them down below. Right there. I panned down at the wrong time. I wasn't looking at the tracker or anything. I was like, oh, the key's kind of timed. So that's another thing. As soon as you turn your brain off for half a second, you're probably gonna get smoked by something in Mythic Plus. When you're in Mythic Plus, pay attention until the key is over, because right there, I pan down just to track where those orbs are actually coming from for 5 seconds, and I'm just one shot. So that's a player skill issue. I shouldn't have died there. I know that this boss casts a frontal every whatever. I should be well aware of it. This was on me. So I will hopefully next time on this boss not be dead, but I was also able to live through the other bosses. So there's a give and take. I Thanks for watching till the end. Please feel free to send me any of your questions below. This channel is actually here just to answer super specific questions about Mythic Plus or any of my main classes, really. I love talking about it, learning more. Let's improve together. Thanks, guys.